I do want to talk a little bit about the stimulus bill that we're now in the process of going through. And you know, obviously we know, I don't have to tell you all where the economy is. We're really struggling. And I think the federal government has an obligation to act. But I think if we're going to act, there are a couple of basic things that we should consider. If it's a bill to create jobs, if there's something in that bill that doesn't create jobs, it shouldn't be in there. There are a lot of wonderful, you know, important, good motherhood and apple pie issues that we all want, we all love, and we all believe in, but it shouldn't be in this bill. This is an emergency bill to deal with the crisis that we're facing right now. Because the question has to be asked, how much more can this country continue to afford to do? You know, you all know a lot more than this tonight, but you know, when you look at, I sit in the budget committee, among the committees that I sit on, and you talk to CBO, these guys are nonpartisan, men and women, and they're incredibly talented. The last one is brand new and appointed by the Democrats, but it doesn't really matter. These people are really professionals. And as I'm sure you've seen and you've read, I mean, CBO is saying they're concerned about the long-term effects of this bill. You know, Argentina was a very wealthy country at one time. We think it can't happen here, right? We think that we can't have double-digit inflation. You know, we can't have, you know, escalating interest rates. Oh wait, we've seen that here too. We saw that in the 70s. But I think what we're facing potentially now, we're talking about catastrophic. Catastrophic is potentially what we're facing if we don't take a step back and take a deep breath and figure out what it is that we're actually trying to do. Now, I support the idea. I want to get a stimulus package passed. But it has to be something that creates jobs and doesn't just stimulate the federal bureaucracy. For example, in the House bill, there's $8 billion in the stimulus package for a federal bill. I'm the ranking member of the subcommittee where this goes to. This is sad to admit. There is language that says that after the money is spent, we'll get a report. After the money is spent. Well, by the way, the Appropriations Committee will get a report. After the money is spent. We're facing some difficult times. And I think we're facing some difficult times because there's this approach that, you know, facts don't really matter. The federal government has unlimited resources. And therefore, we're going to spend unlimited resources to do things that have nothing to do with stimulating the economy, with creating jobs, and we're going to spend it on things that are recurring. Because when we talk about this $1 trillion, it's not $1 trillion. A lot of it are recurring expenses. We're going to have to find that money next year, and the year after that, and the year after that. So this is not $1 trillion plus interest. This is a lot of it recurring money in new federal programs or additions to current federal programs, very little of which is meant to create jobs. This is coming from somebody who believes that the federal government does need to step in. But we need to do so responsibly. We need to do so with a little bit of common sense. We need to do so to make sure, we need to do non-recurring expenditures. We need to make sure that they create jobs. If they don't create jobs, they're not in there. And even there may be some wonderful, there's stuff there for Miami, and for wonderful things in Collier County and elsewhere that don't create jobs. I'm sorry, it shouldn't be there. So I'm hoping that we can slow this trip down a little bit to try to bring some common sense, because I'm very, very concerned that this has now become this huge training. We used to call these bills in Tallahassee. This huge training, wish list of things that people have tried to get done for years and not been able to do so. And now, as the very able and very smart Chief of Staff of the White House says, you know, the crisis is a terrible thing to waste. His words, not mine, by the way. You know, he's got a point, except the fact that we're seeing the consequences of that. So I'm hoping that we can get some common sense in here. I'm hoping that we can get some bipartisan work through this process. I'm hoping that we'll have a bill that that I can support, that some of us can support, which would mean smaller, focused, stimulate the economy, non-recurring funding, and won't create, like the CBO has said, a situation where in the next few years, this bill is going to cause a slowdown of economic growth, as opposed to, if we didn't do it, according to CPO, the economic growth would be larger. So I'm hoping that we can do that. I'm optimistic that it's going to change dramatically. I think it will improve. The question is, does it improve enough so that we have some idea that it's not going to really create, again, as I said, this is not rocket science. You know, when you put this much debt out there, this much money out there, by the way, we're printing money. The printers are not stopping. I mean, they're running 24-hour shifts at the mint here. We're printing money that's off budget. When you're talking about, you know, these trillions that we keep hearing about, that doesn't include the money that's been printed and spent by the Fed. So we're printing money as if there's no tomorrow. We're spending the money as if there's no tomorrow. And you know, which is why when you read the CBO letter, you know, you have to be an economist to understand that eventually, when the economy, while the economy is in bad shape, we're not going to see the effects of that. But as soon as the economy starts picking up, you know that it's going to have some effect on inflation. It's going to have some inflationary effect. It's going to have some effect on interest rates, on the value of the dollar. And this is not rocket science. And so it's really kind of a sad situation to think that we are now going to disregard our kids. But we're not looking at 30 years down the road, because we have a crisis which we know we need to deal with right now.